he went from not only likely being the prime minister, he was driving the national narrative, and now he's really a non-entity.
A non-entity. It's all garbage. This is all propaganda. This one's pretty embarrassing for Carney. Welcome back to Moose on Loose. My name's David. Today we've got the Mexican government calling out Mark Carney and his government for bureaucracy, red tape, being hard to deal with. Pretty much all of the exact opposite of what Mark Carney said he went down to Mexico to do, to open up free trade with Mexico. Turns out it's a lie. We also have a top 5 panel from CBC where they're discussing the most newsworthy people in politics. Among some other stuff, let's jump into this. Starting this one off, we got some polling data coming out of Manitoba. Provincial poll finds progressive conservatives leading. Interesting. 46 to 45%. Now, these are progressive conservatives, but in the grand scheme of things, as I always say, when people go to vote, they just see conservative, NDP, liberal, etc. Despite how conservative this party is, this is very interesting to see. Things are shifting once again. People realizing Mark Carney's not the real deal. People are getting tired of woke. People are looking for a brighter future in Canada. All NDP support in this country comes through the unions. Find a way to nullify or counter the unions and the NDP will fall. I mean, that's what we saw from the previous election. A lot of the NDP support joined the Conservatives. In that, the NDP lost a huge section of their base. Moving ahead, we've got this one from Blacklock's reporter here. Mexican embassy is fed up. The government of Mexico complains it is too expensive and bureaucratic to do business with Ottawa. The candid report by diplomats comes 3 months after Mark Carney announced a new era of cooperation with Mexico. Mexican companies have approached the embassy to inquire about establishing their business in Canada, including in sectors as diverse as construction, finance services, food processing, and real estate, etc., said the report by Mexican embassy. Nevertheless, many of them have expressed concern about excessive requirements, cost, or red tape. This just defines the Liberals here, but this time it's coming from Mexico, calling them out. Goes on to say Ottawa was so dysfunctional that Mexican diplomats had difficulty getting basic data here, it said. It is difficult to present a full picture of foreign direct investment originating in Mexico, as there is no official registry in Canada. Meanwhile, in Mexico, the National Registry of Foreign Investment provides publicly available lists of all foreign companies doing business in the country and Mexican companies with foreign investment. Yeah, I think the Liberals like it this way because they don't want people tracking what they're doing. I mean, look how much money they're sending over to Africa for green initiatives and gender-sensitive farming and all this ridiculousness. Obviously, something's going on here because we're not getting results from our money going over to Africa. Somebody's getting rich. For example, when Vic Felitti, Ontario's Minister of Economic Development, traveled to Mexico in 2024, he stated in an interview that 88 Mexican companies invested in Ontario, wrote diplomats, but no further information could be obtained when a follow-up request was made by the embassy. This is embarrassing. Mark Carney, once again, he's a charlatan, he's a liar. Everything this guy says is for show. If he really meant new era of cooperation, he would have opened this up back then, would have made it easy, would have set up a registry. We would have been doing more business with Mexican companies. Mark Carney has got one bill passed since he's become prime minister, and that was Bill C5 that the Conservatives let through so they could stand back and say, okay, go around your environmental and all your regulations to get things done to build Canada strong. They have not built Canada strong. This is another example of this. It's another utter failure. Canadians are starting to realize this. We see it in the polls. It's just a matter of time before we either get rid of this guy or he bribes some people to join the Liberal Party for a majority. CBC is officially getting dumber by the minute here. What we have here is their top 5 newsmakers of 2025. This panel, as you're going to see, praises Doug Ford. He's number 5 on the list here. And as you would expect, it's a hit piece on Pierre Poilievre, a couple surprises.
Today, we are counting down the top 5 newsmakers that dominated Canadian politics in 2025.
We don't have to take a backseat to anyone, and we sure the heck don't have to take a backseat to Donald Trump.
I don't trust President Trump as far as I can throw.
This is what I think about Crown Royal. That's what they could do.
This clown. So this panel here, all they do is praise Doug Ford here for multiple minutes.
3 straight majority governments pouring out liquor, and he's the Don Draper of the Premier's table, running ads that you can't help but notice.
You can't help but notice.
Yeah, ads that have damaged the relationship with America. This isn't something to celebrate.
That, yeah, he would have been great on Mad Men. Look, I think winning 3 elections is something anybody could admire him. Justin Trudeau did that, of course.
Now, anyone could do that if they had the competition that Doug Ford has in Ontario. Let's get real here.
Stu. I think the key thing about Doug Ford this year, he demonstrated that he is the big dog, if you will, at the Premier's table.
So there's just all this blubbering praise for Doug Ford here. They're trying to pump him up. They want to get Pierre Poilievre out. They want to shuffle Doug Ford over to be the Conservative leader. It's not going to happen. He doesn't have the support of the people.
Yeah, Jordan, he's kind of the hokey pokey Premier, right? Puts his foot in, takes it out, puts it back. He will reverse on policies if he needs to, but it leads to a durability and a longevity as a political leader.
Yes, he's also probably the top consumer of cheese and cracker analogies in the country.
It's a euphemistic guy.
I assume it's Canadian dairy, so it's probably for the best. Yeah, I think, Doug he's really a remarkable political player in his long.
He's just so remarkable, isn't he? Doug Ford is an absolute buffoon, so we're not going to listen to any more of this nonsense. Let's go to number 4.
We want this lady in Alberta to just sit down and shut up.
Notice the very first clip of Danielle Smith they play is that one. Sit down and shut up. They've just painted a narrative here on CBC. It's so obvious.
A tit-for-tat tariff war without addressing the underlying issues. It's not going to go well for Canada.
Shirelle, it is interesting that in 2024, it was all about Danielle Smith fighting with the federal government. 2025, she's working with the federal government on the pipeline in particular.
For now. I mean...
Yeah, it's for now. It's always a narrative. Oh, well, Mark Carney's able to work with Danielle Smith. He's bridging these gaps. No, he's not. Alberta separation is exploding. Saskatchewan separation exploding. Quebec separation exploding. Mark Carney's not unifying anyone.
We'll see what 2026 actually holds. But I mean, there is always going to be that tension. Ottawa is always going to be the scapegoat for Alberta. We're seeing it still with some of the things that she's done, even in the wake of signing that MOU with the Prime Minister try to get that pipeline across through BC, whether it's, talking about federally appointed judges, wanting to use the notwithstanding clause, separation, all of these things are still going to be things that she can drive a wedge between Alberta and the federal government, even as they purport to work together. Because as we saw, it didn't exactly go over super well with her base. No. She was still booed, essentially, when it came down to, talking about, isn't this showing that everybody's working together? No, that's not what they want. They want the fight.
Yeah, Tim, it's remarkable that, Alberta often leads the country in GDP per capita, and she leads the premiers in news per capita, potentially, because whether it's like culture war issues, the separatism issues that are emerging there, the economic fights, the environmental fights, the notwithstanding clause,
it's almost like it's a premier fighting for the people of Canada, unlike buffoons like Doug Ford or Tim Houston, who don't fight for Canadians.
There's a constant churn of activity coming out of the Premier's office in Alberta.
And now a lot of that is about maintaining the support of that base that ironically has recalled her now, which I think is only the second time in Alberta history a premier has.
Her base didn't recall her. Let's get real. Come on, man. Alberta has a recall petition where you can try to get someone pulled out of office, but you need to get, I think, 10,000 signatures, a bunch of them. And it's not Danielle Smith's base that's doing that. It's obviously NDP that are doing that.
Been subject to some form of recall. But she's moved from fringe on the national stage to front and center in terms of cooperation. She and Mark Carney may have done something that nobody would have ever anticipated, that together Canada and Alberta, whether we ever see a pipeline or not, that's a whole other debate, have come together to potentially build one. It's a fascinating moment of national unity, which she is paying for within her own party. But to have the gumption to move forward to do that is admirable. That's almost Peter Lougheed-esque, and she would never want to be compared to Peter Lougheed.
She did that to get rid of the clean electricity regulations. It makes a big difference in Alberta. And Mark Carney's moving ahead with methane emissions. I have another video coming on that. So it was a bit of a tit for tat there. Now let's move on. Who's number 3?
For our number 3 newsmaker this year.
If we had a carbon tax election now, we could elect a strong, stable, national majority government. I'm firm in my convictions, and I'll always put Canada first. Change is on the way. I promise.
Yeah, change is on the way. Funny to put Pierre Poilievre at number 3. We're not going to play most of this panel. I listened to the whole thing. They just attack and attack and attack. Oh, he's lost this. He's lost that. It's time to fact check these fools.
Laura, I think Pierre Poilievre probably started the year thinking he might be number 1 on a list like this. Number 3 and making news in ways I don't think he's happy to be making news.
No, I think Pierre Poilievre probably had one of the worst years of his life in 2025. To think that we were all sitting here a year ago talking about, what was likely going to be Prime Minister Poilievre and what that government would look like. They were, truly it seemed like they were measuring the drapes. To go from that to he now can barely break a message through. He's lost 2 MPs to the Liberals, another one who refuses to vote with them and will leave in the spring. And everyone's just on watch to see who's going to cross the floor next. It's remarkable the year he's had. And in addition, he went from not only likely being the prime minister, he was driving the national narrative and the federal government's direction for at least a year before that. And now he's really a non-entity. It is
a non-entity. These buffoons here. She said he can barely break a message through. Why would they bother releasing this when clearly this is not the case? You can see in the top corner here, it says December 16th. If we make that big, you can see recorded on December 16th. Everything she just said there, aside from him having the worst year of his life, maybe this is the worst year of his life. It definitely shook it up. It probably was. He was expecting to be prime minister. So I don't doubt that. But all the rest of it, nobody's listening his message, not breaking through all that. That's all garbage. This is all propaganda. $1 million a day, the CBC, to smear Pierre Poilievre. That's all they do here. We will briefly touch on a couple of those other boneheads here. They all slander Pierre Poilievre, basically. But what are we looking at here? This is 338. This is back in June. This is June 26th here. And let's look at these polls. So Nanos Research had the Liberals at plus 14. The easiest way to look at this, just look at the right side here. Liberals plus 14, plus 9, plus 14, plus 3, plus 5, plus 12. Anytime any one of these are leading, they're a solid color. So the Liberals are solid here because, well, 45 to 31, they have a 14 plus 14 lead. And if we look at here, 31 is basically the lowest the Conservatives get here. 32, 32, 31, 31, 31, 31. And if we keep going up here, what's this? Conservatives start coming up. And what do we have today? You notice a bunch of solids here. That means the tie. Tie, 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 tie. Conservatives plus 1, Liberals plus 3, Liberals plus 3. What happened to that plus 14 lead? Oh, Poilievre can't break through. Nobody's listening to his message. Really? Are you sure? Are you looking at the polling data? Not like we're looking at just one poll. I mean, Main Street Research got it most accurate the last election. They got the Conservatives at 42 leading. All the other ones here are very close. They're all tied, basically. Tie, 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 tie. And yet Poilievre, he's not breaking through. People aren't listening to him. They don't want to vote for him. Well, the polls disagree. And I brought up the recorded on December 16th here because, well, maybe benefit of the doubt, they didn't know this back then. Things changed drastically in the last week, and they still ran this nonsense, even though that would be unethical doing that if there were such vast changes in the last week. But as it said, the 16th, well, what do we have here? This is the 12th, 14th, 19th, 20th. Most of these were done before they recorded this, as in they're putting up a bunch of propaganda and lies. We've got December 12th, December 12th, December 10th, December 9th, December 7th, December 5th, November 30th. November 30th, this tie right here. And you could see Carney's numbers started to drop here, and then you started getting these ties. They recorded this segment right here in between these top two and right here above Palace data. And they said, yeah, Poilievre has no message that's resonating. Complete lies. There needs to be some sort of fine. Fire these people. $5,000 fine for outright blatant lies on national television here that is funded by taxpayers. There has to be some sort of penalty going forward.
Remarkable to be on the list, number 3 on the list for, at this point, no longer making news.
Yeah,
no longer making news. Thanks, Sherlock. How about you check again?
As Sherelle, Greg McEachern said, they went from measuring the drapes in the Prime Minister's office to hiding behind the drapes on budget day so they didn't accidentally cause an election. It's just such a dramatic shift from where he was.
David Cochrane, he's such a comedian.
This when Chrystia Freeland resigned from the Trudeau cabinet.
Yeah, and the thing that's, I think, is the most remarkable about it is how little growth we've seen in that year. I mean, after he lost...
Yeah, so little growth. Mark Carney just said, who cares to getting a deal with Donald Trump? It was found out that he lied during the election about the tariffs. He lied about his conflicts of interest. What possible conflicts would I have, Rosemary? Look inside yourself. The guy's a chauvinist, arrogant jerk. He's been very aggressive and degrading to multiple female reporters. And you talk about growth. Poilievre has had to go through one of the hardest things I'm sure any politician, any leader of a party has ever had to go through. He lost his seat. He had to seek the opinion of the party whether he should continue forward. Damien Carrick graciously gave up his seat. He had to go campaign in Alberta, get that seat back, go back to the House of Commons and deal with this nonsense. $1 million a day, just slander, slander, slander.
And he ends 2025 with deep questions about his own leadership, right? Lost an election, lost a seat, losing MPs to defection. It is a remarkable decline in a year.
There's a great quote by Donald Crichton, the Canadian historian, who says, history is about character and circumstance. On the circumstance side, Poilievre created circumstances in many ways that he thought would benefit him, but led to the circumstance he finds himself in. The takeout of Jagmeet Singh and the NDP, with Mr. Singh being so low and the NDP polling so low, there was no opportunity for the NDP to cut in and take some of Mark Carney's vote.
I do agree with that. And as David Cochrane said, remarkable decline of Poilievre. How about the remarkable decline of Canada? We've got a bunch of traitors in our media here who are not sticking up for Canadians. It's all about their bank accounts, big paychecks. David Cochrane making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. He'll put out whatever the Liberal Party wants him to put out.
The circumstance of pulverizing Justin Trudeau so effectively that he had no game plan for who came next. And the character is the most fascinating one. Beloved by many in the Conservative Party and Conservative voters, not so with the broader public.
What happened there is the strategy didn't work out. Trump came in, shook things up. The Liberals made it so Poilievre couldn't get anywhere near Trump or America or anything American. Otherwise, they'd paint him as this mini mega Trump. And so they pulled back from it. They probably should have leaned into it, but it was just the strategy didn't work out. Pierre switched out his strategist there. He got Steve Outhouse now. I noticed the differences in the strategies. They're very good. And when it comes down to it, he was running on hope. Mark Carney was fear-mongering and scaring Canadians into voting for him.
Set the table for a very different fight this election. And it was a fight in the end that Poilievre was not prepared for and was unable to adapt to.
Right. And Sherelle, I guess this is the big question for Pierre Poilievre in 2026. Can he change? Should he change? Is he capable of change? And does he want to change? Because it doesn't seem there is a real desire and willingness to be a different type of politician, because this is who he has been his whole life.
He's been his whole life. He's on record as saying, he's never changed his mind, and that's something that he's essentially is proud of. And we keep hearing him say he doesn't need to reflect on his leadership.
Does Mark Carney need to change? Are they going to grill him on changing, being nicer to female reporters, being nicer to people, not being an arrogant jerk? Is he supposed to change? These people are unbelievable.
Fundamentally have shown that what they seem to have liked was the message. They liked Pierre Poilievre's message on affordability, cost of living, all of these things. They didn't like the messenger. And so they went with Mark Carney, who was essentially serving them to a degree some of the same message, but without all the baggage that came along with Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah, the country clearly wanted change. He was the vehicle for change. And when another vehicle pulled up, he couldn't change and lost it. All right, don't go away. Up.
Mark Carney won because he fearmongered. His resume was enough to sway people without looking into the guy and realizing he's a net zero zealot that's going to destroy our country. That's what happened.
I think Canada could be one with a just pay tariff.
Well, what's holding things up? If he's a great man and you want to do a deal with Canada, why aren't you?
Because I want to be a great man, too.
Well, no surprise, Donald Trump is on the list. We're ranking U.S. President Donald Trump as the second biggest political newsmaker of 2025. An argument you can make that he should be number one. Guess who number one's going to be, folks? But, I mean, what is left to say?
Yeah, of course it's going to be Mark Carney, because you guys are a bunch of shills.
Donald Trump at the end of 2025, other than he's always there, and he's one of the two main characters in Canadian politics.
Yeah, he continues to be a chaos machine, and that has shaped our political scene this year. And if you think over the last year, what are the things that might not have happened if it weren't for Donald Trump? We probably would not have another Liberal government. We certainly wouldn't be spending 2% of our GDP on defense. We wouldn't be going around the world looking for new trading partners. We would not have an MOU with Alberta for...
No, we'd have a pipeline. We wouldn't have people suffering. We wouldn't have people ending their lives at the same rates because our country would be getting better. We'd have businesses coming in. We wouldn't have all these mines, mills, auto sector shutting down. We probably would actually have a deal with America. Canadians would be excited about the outlook of Canada. Instead, we have a net zero, globalist, arrogant banker trying to run our country into the ground to make exorbitant profits for him and his well-connected insiders. Canadians really need to take a second look at who they're voting for.
Potentially a pipeline to the West Coast. The list goes on. Really, Trump...
It's not potentially a pipeline. The pipeline would be getting built right now.
I know we need change. Big change. This is the most consequential vote of our lifetimes. I'm asking for your vote to stand up to Donald Trump.
Canada's next government will...
I can't believe they put that clip in there, because clearly he hasn't stood up to Donald Trump.
...be a Liberal government.
This is Canada, and we decide what happens here. May I first thank
my constituents from Nepean forgive me the honor of being here.
The honor? You stole the seat. This guy kicked out Chandra Arya. He should be investigated for even doing that. What happened there? They just kicked the guy out. That should be illegal. He didn't do anything wrong. The guy was there for 9 years.
Laura, a year ago, we thought Mark Carney might be the next Liberal finance minister. I don't think he's ever going to get that job, but what a year he's had.
No kidding. What a year all Liberals have had, right? Politics is, there's all the strategy around politics, but politics is so much a mix of the right time and a little bit of luck. And Mark Carney had that in spades this year, right? When you think about where the Liberal Party was last year and you think about what we were facing, it is very, very different world right now. And it's super interesting when you start to talk about what Mark Carney is trying to do and what he's looking at in Canada. There's the day-to-day rhetoric that we talk about when we think about Mark Carney. Is he a conservative? Is he right of center? Is he actually just a true centrist? Mark Carney, when you hear that clip, I want to build big things. I'm here to do big things. That is certainly true. He is very much a betting man. It doesn't mean they're all going to happen, but he is.
They're not going to build big things. Canada has hundreds of major projects that happen every single year. Mark Carney wants to control who gets funding, who gets approval, who gets to do anything. He wants to be the gatekeeper of all this stuff and really wants to shovel our tax dollars into the projects that he's invested in. He's openly broken ethics laws doing this, and I have a laundry list of them. And yet the CBC and all these useless pundits turn a blind eye. They probably don't even know about this, nor do they care.
Betting on these big things, and he is betting a lot on them. He's betting right now his political legacy, and he's not afraid to, it seems like, bet his cabinet on it, right? Bet a Liberal base on it. There are a lot in Liberal base who are not super happy with what's happening right now. But Mark Carney is continuing on down this path and frankly seems to have public opinion on his side.
No, he doesn't. I just showed the polling data. He's losing public opinion. Perhaps you should spend some more time and look this up for yourself before you go on CBC and look like a complete buffoon. Like, seriously, where do they get these people? They're completely uninformed and they're useless. They just go on to blubber about Mark Carney as usual, never critical.
This particular time, but he bought the dip, right, when the Liberals are at their low point, and here they are on the cusp of a majority as we speak.
That's right. And I think that although he's new to politics, he's actually shown acumen over the last year, not just being the right person in the right place at the right time, but he has navigated these waters with Trump, which are so chaotic and unpredictable.
How has he navigated waters with Trump? He doesn't have a deal. He's an utter failure. He said, who cares? And he's exposed his lack of character, his morality. He's incredibly unethical. He's announcing projects he's invested in. These people can't be serious.
Yeah, I don't know where you categorize Donald Trump, but he is a Republican. You could argue the top 5 lists are all conservative in some way or another for this year, right? And Sherelle, like whatever people may think of Carney's agenda, it seems that he is clearly something he believes this is what I'm here to do. Like I go back to that mission government approach. It's not about what's popular and micro-targeting. It's like, this is what we need to do. We're just going to do it.
We've had enough of this. One day, David Cochrane will not be sitting in this chair. He will not have this job. One day, this buffoon is going to get fired.